Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for this month's webinar. Uh, Today we are taking a look at the front desk operations in Roomkey PMS. So just an overview of today's presentation. We'll start with some introductions, then we'll dive right into an overview of the front desk operations. From there, we will start to take a look at a bunch of checklists. So we'll look at an AM shift checklist, a PM shift checklist, a night audit checklist. We'll take a look at some operational notes just regarding all of these checklists and the front desk as well. And then we'll wrap up today's presentation with a summary and a Q&A section at the end. So for our introductions today, my name is Tasha LeClaire. I'm a trainer and implementation specialist with Roomkey. Joining me today, I do have our Director of Customer Experience, Mr. William Tam. I'll be doing today's presentation and demonstrations on screen, and William will oversee the chat and Q&A. If you do have any questions throughout today's presentation, go ahead and click on that Q&A button in the Zoom presentation. You'll be able to ask a question. I'll be able to answer, and if there's any questions that are left over, we'll add those to the Q&A at the end. Couple more things about today's webinar. It is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be made available on our support website. Those of you that have registered, whether you are able to join the live presentation or not, you'll receive a notification once that presentation is added or once that recording is added to our support website. For those of you that are joining our live presentation, there is a webinar survey at the end of today's presentation. A couple of quick questions about your experience, and it also allows you to give us some feedback. So if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics, please let us know through that survey. We're happy to accommodate that information. We also want to know how we're doing throughout these presentations as well. So thank you in advance for all of you participating. So diving right into a bit of an overview of the front desk operations, I just want to take a 30,000 view look. An overview of the front desk is basically managing reservations, guests, operations in the hotel throughout the morning, afternoon, and overnight. So we'll be focusing in on 3 phases, so morning, afternoon, overnight. Depending on your hotel operations, you may only have 2 shifts and you may actually close your front desk overnight. So you might just have a morning opening shift and an afternoon closing shift and then no overnight. Or you may have a more robust situation where you have a morning shift, maybe a mid shift, an evening or afternoon, and then an overnight. So we'll be looking at these checklists based off of 3 shifts, morning, afternoon, and overnight. But throughout today's presentation, I will be letting you know some tasks or shifts, tasks that can be shifted either to a 2-shift situation where you close overnight, or you can expand your shift list if you're adding in shifts in between morning, afternoon, and overnight there. So as I mentioned, we'll be looking at 3 main shifts, the AM shift, PM shift, and night audit in this case, or that overnight shift. This is an example of a couple of checklists that will be made available on our support website. These will be the checklists that we are reviewing and using as our guide points for today's presentation. But like I said, these will be made available on our support website so you can review them and maybe use them as a template to create your own or update your own shift task or shift checklists. So diving right in, let's take a look at the AM shift checklist. And we're going to start with the start of the shift itself. So you're going to log right into Roomkey PMS. Each user is going to have their own login information. So when you begin your shift, if you are on the AM shift, you're going to start with logging into Roomkey, and you're going to review pass on from the previous shift. The next thing that you'll do is review the property dashboard. Throughout our checklist, I do have some shortcuts, so you can access the property dashboard when you are logged into Roomkey by clicking the F1 key on your keyboard. This property dashboard is going to give you an overview of what is happening in your hotel at this very moment. So it's a snapshot of all of the activity and end of day projections at that time. So as soon as you start the shift on the AM, what we recommend is that you are monitoring your arrivals, departures, and occupancy. Now, your property may also want to monitor some additional things like out of order rooms, clean, vacant, dirty, housekeeping statuses, anything like that. Those values are also available on this property dashboard. But for this recommendation, at minimum, we do recommend you're monitoring those arrivals, departures, and occupancy. So you can see that information on this dashboard under the activity section. You'll see a list of you'll see your arrivals and departure values. And over to the end of day projections, you'll see your occupancy percentage. So what you can do with this checklist is you can actually add those values directly into your checklist sheet. So for example, your arrivals, this example here, we've got 17 arrivals for the day. We have 5 departures and expected occupancy of 77.5. Now, another trick with this property dashboard is that if you wanted to have a list of arrivals, maybe you wanted to see a list of those guest names, details about their stay, arrival, departure information, from this property dashboard, anytime that you see a blue drop-down arrow, you can actually click on that arrow and that will generate a report for you. So that'll give you a preview of the report and then you can actually print that report at your property there. Great. Now, the next thing that you'll do to start off your shift is to check availability. And I recommend using our availability calendar, which is the F12 function key button on your keyboard. So I'm just going to pull up Roomkey here and I'll show you what that looks like. So here is an example database, and I'm going to click F12 on my keyboard. That's going to bring up my inventory calendar, and I can see information about my actual inventory for today's date. Here we can see that we've got 2 room types that are sold out, the SK and the S2D room types. I have 0 inventory available, but I do still have availability in some of the higher room categories here, DK, D2D, and the EKS. Now, a couple things that you can do from this inventory calendar. From the checklist, we do recommend that if you have any oversold rooms, meaning that there's a minus, that you notify your manager on duty or MOD. For example, here, I can see on this inventory calendar that I actually have an oversold room type for tomorrow's date. I would want to let my manager on duty or my supervisor know about this oversold situation. Now, if you do have an oversold situation, if you want to know more details about what bookings are here or what might be causing this oversold situation, you can double click on this minus uh, integer. So for the S2D room category for tomorrow's date, I'm going to double click on this and it will generate an inventory detail report for that specific room type. So this is inventory detail for the S2D room type for that specific date. I can see a list of the reservations that are set up already, and I can also see if there's any issues with some of these bookings. So one thing that you might want to take a look at is if there's any blocks that are currently held uh, or holding rooms. In this case, the John View Tours wholesaler block. This does have rooms, or it is an active block, but we can see that there's no rooms left in the block. So this is not causing any issue. They're not being held. So the next thing that I might take a look at is this list of reservations. And one thing that you can do here is you can see by the res ID what sorry, these reservations are categorized by Res ID, and Res IDs are assigned automatically when the reservation is booked, and they're assigned in um, ascending order. So we know that this Res ID 1527 was made before Res ID 1547. So using that methodology, you can deduce that the reservation at the bottom here, this highest res ID number, this was the last reservation that was created. This reservation for the guest Quinton Howe for res ID 1545. So based off of that information, you can go through and see who made that reservation using the activity log, and you can follow up with that front desk agent or reservation agent as to why they overbooked this room type. Um, for our purposes today, if you are looking at a strategy for relieving or maybe upgrading one of these reservations to relieve that oversold status for tomorrow, what I might recommend is looking at any future reservations. So we've got this future reservation here, and this one is only in-house for one night, so from the 18th to the 19th. So I might recommend that you give an upgrade or a complimentary upgrade for this room type or for this reservation for Seth Cook to a higher room type in order to resolve that overstay or that overbooking situation that we have on the inventory calendar. So that would move this -1, that would bring it to a 0. And then you might want to upgrade them to the same room category. So make sure that they still have 2 double beds, but bring them up to a deluxe instead. So it would take one of the 2D2 rooms out of inventory for that category. And that would relieve that oversold situation there. So lots of information that you can gather from the inventory calendar. And by monitoring that at the beginning of this shift, that ensures that you are addressing any issues for the current day, but it also gives you a glimpse at addressing issues for the future days. And that's why it is important to bring those to the attention of the manager on duty. If you're not able to resolve issues, they will be able to address those and fix those within the inventory there as well. The next activities that we'll look at for the AM shift is preparing for your arrivals. Um, the first one that we recommend is to post any advance deposits that are due for the current day. Now, we have a report that allows you to do this. It's called the Deposit Due report, and you can access this report using shortcut keys in Roomkey. Now, before I pull up this report, I just want to show you what the shortcut keys can do when you are accessing reports, because this will be a reoccurring theme here. So when you access the reports, you can use your mouse to go to reports and search down here to deposits and go through that way. But the other way that you can do it is if you use the keyboard, use your Alt key, ALT, Alt, and you'll hold the Alt key, click the letter E, D, D. And that will pull up the report quite quickly without you having to use your mouse to scroll through the different reports and things like that. So if you remember some of the shortcut keys for these reports, they will make the process really quick for you. So this deposit due report, let me just pull up my screen here. I've just highlighted for each of these reports where you can find them in the reports menu. But I've also underlined the access key that you can use or the shortcut keys. So like I said, this one for advanced deposits is EDD, and that will bring up the deposits due report for the current day. You can always look at this for future days, but when you're doing your AM checklist as the AM shift, I recommend that you're double checking for the current day to make sure that everyone has deposits posted. So this is going to let you know what reservations are coming in today that need a deposit. Um, We've got a couple of them listed here. So for example, we want to make sure that any deposits that are required for advanced deposit reservations arriving today, that those are recorded. The other thing that will appear here, if you have your policy set up for advanced deposits with your online travel agents like Expedia Prepaid or Booking.com Prepaid, those will also show up on this deposits due report. A common question that we do get is how do you take advanced deposits for some of those OTAs? So I'm just going to bring up my demo database here and we'll take a look at an example. So here in my arrivals screen, I have an Expedia prepaid reservation. Couple of features on these prepaid reservations. They will often have this hide rate notification letting you know as a front desk agent that you are not supposed to um, let the guest know the rate. The rate is actually hidden because the guest has already prepaid their room and tax to Expedia or the online travel agent, and we are not actually using the guest credit card for room and tax payment. Instead, what you'll see on the booking is a virtual credit card. It often says Expedia virtual card, or it might say booking.com as the cardholder name. That is a one-time use credit card associated that is issued by the OTA or online travel agent. And in this case, we can also see that on the reservation note for this guest that the room and tax is to be billed to the Expedia virtual credit card. So what you might do is go over to the Folio tab and you'll see that there are no deposits on file. So this is one of the guests that we need to take that prepayment. So you'll click Post Payment. What you'll notice is that the payment window will pop up with that Expedia virtual card already populated here. And if your policy is set up with a advanced payment or OTA policy, it will also pre-populate the amount for room and tax for you. The only thing I need to do is make sure that this deposit is going to be posted to Folio 8, which is hidden. That way the guest does not see anything with regards to the payment because as far as they're concerned, they've already prepaid directly to the Expedia company itself. So we're going to post this prepayment on Folio 8 using the virtual card with the amount already populated. You just click OK Exit. If you have an integrated credit card processor like Full Steam or Roomkey PMS Payments, you'll see the processor window pop up on screen. I'll click Post, and this will actually process that credit card payment and give me the approval message on screen. So once that is approved, the payment now appears on the guest folio as a advanced deposit. So I know that that prepayment is already recorded. Now, when the guest arrives, I can collect their guest credit card for incidentals and that way, the guest will be paying for their own incidental charges if they charge anything else to the room. Otherwise, all the room and tax is already prepaid using that Expedia virtual credit card. Great. So lots of information there. If your property does not do advanced deposits, or if you do not do any of those prepaid OTA bookings, this advanced deposits report, you would be able to skip this step as part of your AM checklist. The next one that we're taking a look at is reviewing any guest notes or guest services. Guest notes are included on every reservation. So we have a report here, the arrival or reservation notes report, which you can find by using the shortcut key Alt EEPB. That will bring up this report for the current day. For all of your arrivals, it will list the guest information, including the res ID, arrival, departure, length of stay, assigned room number, guest name, and then it will note if there's any guest notes or reservation notes on file for that guest. If there is nothing on file, it'll simply say no guest note or no reservation note. But if you do have any information on file, for example, this reservation note says that these guests are celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary on a specific date throughout their stay, so we would be able to make any special accommodations for them. Some other things that might be noted here, we have an example of a complimentary stay that has been approved by the sales and manager on duty. It does also note that the guest is paying for their own incidentals, so you'll still be collecting the guest credit card at check-in. We also have some other billing notes here. If you offer direct billing for your guests, that will be noted as part of a reservation note. For example, here, this guest at the bottom has room and tax that is direct billed to the city ledger during their stay. So reservation notes and guest notes are really important to review at the beginning of the shift because that way you can either pre-assign room numbers, you can coordinate with other departments if you need to gather any gifts or anything like that to be distributed out to the room before the guest arrives. Now, if you are using guest services for some of these amenities, things like parking, or if you add any amenities to the room, we do have another report that you can pull up that specifies just the guest services. So for example, the guest services report will list any guest services for today's arrivals. Here we've got a couple of requests for amenities in the room. One of them is specified as a complimentary bouquet of flowers to be placed in the room. That's that guest that is celebrating a wedding anniversary, for example. We also have services for, you might set them up for paid services like parking. In this example, we've got two guests that are paying for parking, which is $15 per day. And that is noted here. These services, when you're printing this guest services report, you have the option to print all services, or you can print just specific services. So this guest services report could be used to pass on to other departments. For example, your parking attendants, if they just need to know about these guests that have parking while they're in-house, you can simply print this report and only show the parking services and pass that on to that department for managing the parking or parkade on site. The next thing that we'll be looking at is to assign room numbers based off of any of those guest notes or service notes. If you are pre-assigning room numbers at before guest arrival, there's a couple of different ways you can do that inside Roomkey. Let me just pull up my demo here. One of the easiest ways to pre-assign room numbers is from the arrival screen. Next to each reservation, you'll see this room column, and it will show the room numbers that are assigned. For example, room 505 is assigned for this guest, Corey Dempsey. You can assign room numbers by double-clicking on this empty space. It will bring up a room assignment window, and it will only show you the rooms that are in that room category. So for this example, I can see this drop-down list. The only room available in the SK category is 108. So I can go ahead and click Post to assign room 108 to that guest. There we go. You can do that again for any other room type. So this guest has a different room type. And then in this case, room 204 is the only one that's available there. And go ahead and click Post. Now, another method that you may choose, instead of using the arrivals screen, you may choose to use the tape chart. So let me just scroll down here, and I have the tape chart view. on the right-hand side. This is going to give a more visual representation of all of the reservations, any past reservations, in-house reservations, and future reservations. They are all color-coded on this grid where the room numbers are listed from lowest to highest along with their room type, and then the days of the week along the top here. Now, if you ever needed to know what is going on this tape chart, you can right-click, select Legend, and that will give you a legend telling you what these uh, colored blobs or colored reservations mean. So I know that any reservations that are in blue are in-house. Anything that's in gold is an upcoming reservation. Anything that's checked out is in silver. And then if I have any issues like an overstayed or a no-show, those would also show up color coordinated on this tape chart as well. So to assign a room number, let me just scroll down here to an available room. Here we go. Um, for this reservation, oh, let me scroll down a little further here. For this room 402, you can right-click and select Assign Room. Now, what that's going to do is show you any reservations that are due to arrive today that can fit into that room category. So for example, I've got 2 reservations here for Megan Bell. I can go ahead and assign those if I go ahead and double click. And I might want to assign the second one next door on the same floor. So again, I'll just repeat that, right click and click Assign Room, and then double click on the reservation to assign that reservation to that room 403. So now I have those rooms assigned 402 and 403 for those 2 reservations for Megan Bell. Now this tape chart view, I do like this view a little bit better for room assignment because if you make a mistake or if you want to move a room, you can click and drag the reservation. So instead of room 402, if I wanted to assign room 404, I can click on this booking and drag it down to room 404. And when I release, it's just going to confirm that I want to move that reservation. So that'll allow me to move that accordingly. Now, just a little tip, if you are using that click and drag method, wherever you click, you do need to stay inside that same column. So if I was to click and then move over to the next day, what this does is actually tells Roomkey that I want to take the arrival and move it to the next day. So if I release, instead of allowing me to just confirm that room move, it's actually going to pop up and ask me if I want to change the stay or edit the reservation. So it's going to bring up this reservation edit screen instead. So if you make any room moves, just be mindful that you need to stay inside the same column in order to click and drag and reassign that room or reassign that reservation, ensuring that it's the same arrival and not changing the arrival or changing the room type. Right. The next thing that I would recommend that you are doing is to review any future arrivals, making sure to verify the billing instructions for any corporate group and wholesaler guests. That includes reviewing the client type rate code and making sure that the correct account is attached. And then if you have any reservations that have a manual rate, you want to make sure that those are reviewed as well because the manual rate can cause some issues with your reporting. So as a rule of thumb, we recommend that you limit the number of reservations with a manual rate. You want to make sure that you're categorizing those with the correct rate code, client type, and accommodating any guest notes or reservation notes. So a really easy way to do that, if I just bring up my demo database again, if I go over to my arrivals screen, one of the ways that I like to review reservations is group all of this reservation or similar reservations together. So from my arrivals screen, I'll go ahead and click the rate code column, and that's going to categorize all of my arrivals by rate code. And that allows me to then go through and look at each reservation. These are best available rates. So these are pretty standard reservations here. What I might want to focus in on is anything with a corporate code, making sure that, for example, this ABC consultants rate, this is a corporate rate, so it does have a corporate client type. It has the ABC consultants rate, and I want to make sure that the correct company is attached at the bottom here where it says ABC consultants. I would also double check any reservation or guest notes. Of course, that would appear on my reports that we printed earlier, but we can see here that it has specific billing instructions that room and taxes are going to the city ledger. So the guest is only going to be paying for their own incidental charges. If there's anything other than room and tax, the guest is paying for. Likewise, here I've got an advanced purchase rate. This is one where I would want to make sure that I have that advanced purchase or that deposit on file on the folio. We can also take a look at any prepaid reservations. So again, making sure that the correct client type, rate code, and company are attached. And this is the example of one where we have a deposit on file. So that's that prepayment that we would have reviewed as part of our deposits due report. Um, and then anything to do with a wholesaler, this is an example of a wholesaler or a tour that's coming in. Somewhat similar to the direct billing, we're going to have a company attached, and you're going to have some billing instructions noted off to the right-hand side for the reservation note there. Lastly, if your property uses house accounts or posting masters for group billing or event billing, if you have any of those house accounts arriving for the day, we do recommend that you check all of those um, in the morning. This database does not, but if your property is managing house accounts for internal billing purposes, you want to make sure that those house accounts are all checked in the morning as well on their arrival date. Now, the next thing that you'll be looking at for your AM shift checklist is your departures. So many of the departures will be checking out throughout the morning shifts. So some things that we want to make sure that we're looking at is any guests that are using direct billing. In this case, we have an operation that'll allow us to use the City Ledger transfer button. Let me just pull up my database here. If I go over to the departure screen, we can see, for example, I have this John View Tours. This was a guest that was staying as part of a wholesaler, and part of their instructions here indicate that room and tax is going to the John View Tours account. So if I go over to the folio, I can see that there are 2 nights room and tax that are listed here. And because this is associated with a direct bill account, I have a button in the top right-hand corner here that says City Ledger Transfer. Now, I can wait until the guest actually checks out and do this transfer as part of the checkout process. Or what we might recommend for any direct bill guests is to do that transfer in advance. So before the guest actually checks out, I can actually transfer these charges over to the account for John View by clicking on City Ledger Transfer. This is going to bring up a list of those room charges that we see on file. I'm going to auto apply. So that's going to select all of those charges, the room charges there, and it's going to let me know that it's going to transfer these to the John View Tours. By default, it's going to create a new invoice, and I recommend that you use that default setting. You'll go ahead and click transfer. and that will confirm that those charges have now been successfully transferred. So when this guest goes to check out, they are not responsible for any room charges. They are only responsible if they had any um, incidental charges. So if they were paying for parking or anything extra, that would go to their own credit card on file. But these room and tax charges are now transferred over to the city ledger account or the account for this direct bill um, tour. Right. So when I go ahead and check out this guest, it'll show me that there are no charges owed or no outstanding balance. I can simply select checkout. Right. Perfect. Um, Now, throughout your AM shift, typically towards the end of the AM shift, you want to make sure that any uh, guests are or any due outs or departures are checked out. Now, if you have any checkouts remaining, you're going to want to coordinate with the housekeeping team and let them know if there's any of these late checkouts. On file, I do not see any notes about this guest being a late checkout. So I might want to see maybe if the guest skipped past the front desk, maybe they just left the room, left the keys in the room, and did not do a formal checkout at the front desk. So that's why it is a good practice to coordinate with the housekeeping team. Let them know if you have any departures remaining on the system because they might have already cleaned the room or they might have already acknowledged that the guest has checked out. So if there's any information like that that you need to coordinate with the housekeeping team, we do have a recommendation here that you follow up with the housekeeping team. Um, if the housekeepers say that the guest is still checked in, that maybe there's a do not disturb on the room, we can actually call the guest. So you might want to do a call right around the checkout or just after checkout time to see if the guest is maybe just running a little bit behind, or if they do in fact need the room to be extended, anything like that. So that's just an important thing to note regarding any of the departures for the day. If you do have a departure remaining, I would recommend that you include that as your pass on to the next shift. So you might want to note we've got one late checkout remaining, so that would be passed on to the next shift. Now we're coming to the end of the AM shift. Here, we would close down your shift. So what I might recommend you do is review your clerk detail report. Um, that can be accessed from our reports menu in the cashier section. This is an example of a detailed cashiering report where it will list out, first of all, it will note the clerk name. This is just an example from our test database. So it says RSI admin as my clerk name at the top. And then it lists all of the payments that I've recorded. If there's any charges I've recorded, those would show up on this cashiering report as well. The next report that I recommend you use if you are managing a cash drawer or you're managing any of your payment slips is the shift reconciliation report. This report can be printed for a specific clerk. So in this case, RSI admin is noted as the clerk name, and it will show you all of the payment types that you've recorded during your shift. So if you have any city ledger transfers, that is transferring those charges to the city ledger or direct bill, any MasterCard, Visa payments, and if you had any cash, that would also show up on this report and allow you to count out your shift. If you have any cash to deposit, you can record that on the line provided, and then you can also sign for that deposit. So this can be included as part of your shift drop or cash drop at the end of your shift. Lastly, we recommend that you complete a pass on with the next shift. So you might want to note if there's any issues like that late departure or one departure remaining. If there's any guest requests that you were not able to complete during your shift, you'll include that as pass on with the next shift, and any further details that are required as part of a pass on from the AM shift to the PM shift or the next staff member on duty. And then last but not least, always remember to log out of Roomkey. So now let's take a look at the PM shift or the next relief shift after the morning opening shift. So for the PM shift, it is much the same. You're going to start your shift off by logging into Roomkey. You're going to review a pass on from the previous shift. So you're going to coordinate with the AM shift or morning shift to pass on any information that you need to know for your afternoon or PM shift. The next thing that you'll do is review the property dashboard. Once again, that's F1 on your keyboard, and that'll bring up a property dashboard with a bunch of key figures. This is a snapshot of what is happening in the hotel at the time that you generate the report. So as soon as you click F1, it's going to take a snapshot of all of these details. Couple of things that we recommend you record throughout the day or monitor include the arrivals, departures, and occupancy. So you'll find that within the activity section, you'll see a list, a number for your arrivals, your departures, and then off to the right-hand side, in the end of day projections, you'll see an occupancy percentage. So it is a good practice to add these values to your checklist, and you can actually compare any changes from the previous shift. So we now have 16 arrivals, we've got 3 departures remaining, and our occupancy has actually gone up to 80%. So it looks like we either had a walk-in or maybe a same-day reservation flow in between the AM shift and PM shift starts. The next thing that you'll also do is monitor any availability. So we're going to check our availability again as soon as you start your PM shift. Let me just pull up my demo database here. And to check availability, you're going to click F12. That's going to bring up your inventory calendar. Now, if you have any inventory information, it's going to show up in today's date highlighted here. For example, we can see that we're still sold out on the SK and S2D room types. If there's any issues where you are oversold, these will show up in red with a minus symbol. So we're not oversold today, but I do see that there's an oversold reservation for tomorrow's date. So if you see any of these oversold situations where there's a minus number, either in today or maybe tomorrow, you'll want to bring those to the attention of your manager on duty so that they can resolve those issues as soon as possible to prevent any oversold situations for future dates as well as today's date. Now, a little trick here, if you wanted to see more information, we saw during our AM shift checklist that you can double click on a specific integer, so you'd be able to see a list of those reservations. If you wanted to see an overview of the day itself, you can click on the date header, and that will show you a list of all of your reservations that are expected to be in-house or arriving today. So we see all of our reservation totals here. This is a list of, this will eventually be your in-house list for the day. So you can see the total at the bottom. And if you have any groups or wholesaler blocks that are taking up inventory for the day, that will show up at the bottom as well. So we've got a group and we also have a wholesaler, but they are not using, all the rooms are occupied for those 2 blocks, so there's no rooms left in the block. That ensures that there's no rooms being held outside of the general inventory that we see listed on our inventory calendar here. Great. The next thing that you'll do for the PM shift is to monitor credit limits and review future reservations. So we've got a couple of reports that can help out and a couple of tools using our embedded payment solution if you are using Roomkey PMS payments powered by Fullsteam. So let's take a look first at the credit limits. we have a report that will allow you to review the credit limit for all of your in-house guests. That's the credit limit report found in the reports menu. When you pull up this report, it's going to show you a list of all of your in-house guests, and there's two columns at the end. You have available credit and credit limit. Credit limit is the total authorization amount on the credit card on file for that guest. The available credit will show you how much credit is available over and above the room and tax expected for that guest stay. So our demo database and most databases are set up to authorize for room and tax, and then you can authorize for an additional amount for incidentals or an additional hold at the time of check-in. So that additional hold is the available credit, and that's the column that you'll actually be looking at here. Now, the policy for this hotel is to always have $100 of available credit. That ensures that any charges that the guests post to their account during their stay, like food and beverage or parking or services, that available credit can be used to pay for those services at the end of their stay. So what I should see here is $100 available credit, but what you'll notice is that I do have a guest here that has $0. That means that the room and tax was authorized, but we did not have an available credit, or we did not have that additional amount for authorization. So what I would want to do is actually use the guest folio credit limit to increase the credit limit for this guest. This guest is in room 308. So in room key here, I'll just go to my in-house list. I'll scroll down to 308. There it is right there. And to increase the credit limit for this guest, I would go to transactions and guest folio credit limit. This will now allow me to increase the credit limit using the guest credit card on file. So it's always going to use this credit card that's attached to the guest info. So to increase that, I'm going to add $100 and I would click post. That would then go through and authorize that additional $100 amount. Now, another way that you can do that, if you are using Roomkey PMS payments powered by Fullsteam, we do allow you to increase authorizations for multiple guests. Instead of having to search and look for the guest in the in-house screen, what you can do is go to our reports menu, online processing, and incremental authorizations. That will bring up a tool on screen where it will show a list of all of my in-house guests. And here where it says available funds, I can simply additional auth, I can simply add in that $100, and I can see that I can add an additional amount for another guest. Here we've got one more that needs to be increased. We'll do $50, or sorry, $45. And then we have another one down here where only $10 was authorized, so we need to increase that by another $90. So using this tool, instead of having to go one by one for each of these guests, I can use the additional auth column and click process to increase the authorization for all of these guests. We can see here that this is processing using my credit card processor powered by Fullsteam. And once that goes through, I will have a summary at the end. So I have successfully increased the authorization for all three of those. I can click OK, and it does generate a report for me. So I can see those authorizations that I increased. It will show me how much I increased it by and my new authorization amounts here as well. Neat. So that is one of the nice things if you are using our Roomkey PMS payments powered by Fullsteam. We do give some of that additional functionality where instead of having to go one by one, you can use that tool to increase authorizations for multiple guests at once. Great. So one of the questions that we had just regarding that increase is from Mike. He's asking if the credit limit addition would say that the guest CC would not be able to increase. That's correct. So whether you're using the manual method one by one using the guest folio credit limit, or if you're using our embedded tool with incremental authorizations, if there's any failures or any issues with the guest credit card, Roomkey will let you know that that it was a processing failure. It would let you know that it is not increased. And in that case, if any of those failed, you would need to go and follow up with the guest directly. So maybe collect an alternate form of payment there. Great. Perfect. So the next thing that we'll look at here is an arrivals report. The next report here, the arrivals report, this allows you to do a check for some of the arrivals coming up in the future. Because the PM shift is not will be dealing with today's arrivals, if there's some space for the PM shift to have be able to look at future arrivals, you can use the arrivals report. Now, if you do have a mid shift, so someone that is on working at the front desk, maybe overlapping the AM and PM shift, this is also a good task for them to complete during their shift. So if they've got like a mid shift or an evening shift in addition to PM, this is a task that can be passed on to one of those additional or one of that swing shift personnel. Um, Using the arrivals report, what you're going to do is look at your upcoming arrivals for 1 to 3 days in advance, and we're going to review the details on the booking. So you're going to review the client type, the rate code, make sure that the correct account or group code is attached if applicable. You'll also want to review any guest notes or reservation notes. So the report itself, I'm going to use my shortcut keys to access the report. So I'm going to click Alt and hold it, click the EYA button in order to generate this report. And I'm going to look at future days. So I'm going to look at least tomorrow, and let's look at the next 3 days up through to the 20th here. When I click OK, that's going to show me this report on screen, which shows me my upcoming arrivals. Some details here, we can actually see that for each reservation, if there is a note on file, that's going to be noted down below. So this is a reservation note for this guest saying that they're going to be paying their own room and tax or own account. And that's for the Expedia Hotel Collect. So I've got a couple of OTAs, but the guest is going to be paying those. I don't need to take a prepayment. If there were any guest requests or any reservation notes, those would also be noted here. What I might want to do if you are assigning rooms in advance, I could go through and assign any rooms as needed for these future reservations. And if I've got any advance purchase rates, for example, here I've got an advance purchase rate, I might want to make sure that there is a advance purchase on file for that guest. So again, reviewing those in advance, just making sure that you are taking any of those details in advance. And if you have any reservations that have a manual rate in this rate name, I would recommend reviewing those, making sure that they have the correct client type, the correct rate, and the correct group or corporate name attached as well. Another way that you can do that, if you don't want to use the report itself, you can go over to the reservation screen here in Roomkey, and that will show you a list of your future reservations. But just be mindful that it's going to show you more than just the next 1 to 3 days. It's going to show you any arrivals for today, and it's going to show you any future reservations beyond 3 days. So for example, this reservation is coming in next month in October. It's going to show you that in advance there. Now, to end off your shift as the PM shift, you're going to follow the same shift end procedures as the AM shift. So you want to collect your clerk detail. That's going to show all of your payments and any charges you've recorded throughout the day. You'll want to do your shift reconciliation report as well. So if you've recorded any payments and taken in any cash, you can do your cash drop. And lastly, you'll want to complete any pass on with the next shift and log out of Roomkey. The last shift that we're taking a look at here is the night audit. Um, excuse me. With the night audit checklist, this is going to start out a little bit differently. Most night audit shifts will start at the end of one day and finish in the morning of the next day. So you're kind of spanning 2 days. One thing that you'll want to make sure that you're reviewing here is any pass on from the previous shift. So any pass on from the PM and AM shift information. The next thing that you'll want to make sure is to confirm that all departures are checked out before midnight. This is very important for the night auditor to do as soon as they start their shift, because if you allow a reservation to remain, a departure to remain in the system past midnight, it's going to cause an overstayed situation, and it will cause errors on your reporting. So the first thing that you want to do as a night auditor in Roomkey is to go directly to your departure screen and make sure that any of these guests are checked out. If this guest is not, maybe they've remained in-house, if it is too late to call them or if the pass on does not include details about this guest, I do recommend tentatively to change the stay so that the date out, you extend the stay by one more day. This ensures that this does not become an issue, and you want to note this for the manager on duty for the next shift. So all I would do is extend this for one more night and click OK. If there is any issue with the booking, for example, this room is not available, 502, you would need to do some room moves. So for my tape chart here, room 502, it sounds like this one is already assigned. There we go. So I'm just going to make sure that the room is still available. I'll just change the stay and I can extend the stay for this guest. There we go. One extra night. Now, this is rare that this would happen because, of course, it is the responsibility of the AM and PM daytime shifts to make sure that all departures are checked out. But if there is a scenario where the night audit needs to take care of this, it is important that the night audit addresses that at the beginning of their shift to make sure that there are no departures remaining in the system before midnight. Now for the night auditor, we have a series of reports that the night auditor is going to check. And with the night audit, because it does span 2 days, we're going to be mindful of the timings when you are generating these reports and doing these functions. So before midnight, we make sure there's no departures in the system. After midnight, we are going to print some reports. Now, if your property allows, maybe has late arrivals, we typically set up what's called a rollover time. A rollover time is going to allow you to check in late arrivals after midnight, and it's going to check them into the previous day and automatically post room and tax for the previous day. Now, we do have quite a bit of information on our support website about how to manage guests that arrive after midnight, between midnight and rollover, and then after the rollover time. So if you are new to the night audit shift, I do recommend you take a look at our support website. Let me just bring that up on screen here. There we go. So from our support website, training videos and webinars, in this Getting Started section, you'll see our Essential Balancing webinar. This gives you an idea of all of the things that you're doing for end of day procedures. Um, we do have a full webinar recording here that you can review beginning to end, or you can use the table of contents to quickly jump to a specific area. So if you'd like to know more about the end of day versus rollover time in Roomkey, we've got a quick video here that explains the purpose of the rollover time and what you can do as far as your rollover settings and guest arrivals after midnight. So this will give you an overview. These two videos will show you what you can do for guests arriving after midnight and before or after that rollover time. Thanks. So we'll come back to this section here because we've got a couple of examples there as well. But for our rollover, this example is going to use 3 a.m. as the rollover time. So between midnight and 3 a.m., you're going to generate the reservations with deposits report. Now, this report is going to show you any reservations with advanced deposits. When you go ahead and generate this report, I recommend you use a date far enough in the future. So you're going to start from the current day all the way into the future as far as you are accepting reservations. So usually that would be 1 to 2 years in the future. That will show a list of all future deposits on file. In your deposits account there. This report is typically passed on to the accounting team. It is time sensitive, so we do recommend that you print this report right after midnight, and that's going to give you the most accurate reading for the accounting team. The next thing that you'll want to do is to check for any unbalanced folios. Now, the unbalanced folio report, when you generate this report, you should receive this warning message telling you that there are no records to report. This is actually a good thing. This lets you know that there are no unbalanced folios occurring in the system. So once you receive this warning message for your unbalanced folios, this is actually a good thing, so you'd be able to check that off your list. If you do find that there are unbalanced folios, or if you do have a report that generates, go ahead and address those. Here in our Essential Balancing webinar document, it talks about how you can troubleshoot any unbalanced folios. We've got a video about how to find them and how to fix them depending on if they are in canceled status or checked out status, and then how to confirm that there are no unbalanced folios remaining in the system. So if you don't get that warning message, you're going to want to go through this troubleshooting to address and resolve any unbalanced folios before the rollover time. The next thing that you'll take a look at is the transaction register balance report. This report can be used to reconcile or audit any external charges from external interfaces. If you charge for any phone calls from the guest room, either local calls or long distance calls, if you have a restaurant with a POS or point of sale system where charges from the restaurant are posted to a guest account in Roomkey, or if you have movie or internet systems, you can use this all on one report in order to audit those systems and make sure that everything that is recorded in those external tools like a PBX or POS or internet system is also recorded accurately in Roomkey. Now, the last thing that you'll do is if you are using our payments integration with FullSteam, you can use the payment reconciliation report to ensure that there are no non-matching transactions. Now, if you'd like to know a little bit more about reconciliation with our end of day procedures for our embedded payment solution, definitely check out our payment processing and reconciliation webinar. This goes through a lot of details about how to record payments, as well as how to reconcile at the end of the day. So we've got a section down here about payment reconciliation that shows you how to reconcile either with a manual credit card processor that is not connected to Roomkey, if you're using a third-party credit card interface like Shift4, Or ideally, if you're using our Roomkey PMS Payments embedded processor, we actually have automated real-time reconciliation that you can use that is embedded directly into Roomkey. So we have a report or a situation here where you can see how to view that reconciliation report and make sure if there are any non-matching transactions, we have some troubleshooting tips for how to resolve those as well. So definitely take a look at that webinar in order to ensure that your credit card are all reconciled at the end of the night audit shift. Now, for the night audit, after the rollover, there are some additional reporting that we recommend. The first thing after rollover is to confirm that if there are any no-shows inside the system. So the no-shows report, similar to the unbalanced folios report, you would want to see this warning message telling you that there are no records to report. If there are any no-shows remaining inside the system, you will need to that report will generate, and you'll need to pass that on to the AM shift or the next manager on duty to let them know that there were some no-shows, because it's typically the AM shift that would then either try and follow up with the guests or go ahead and charge for any of those no-shows. The next thing that you'll want to do is your essential balancing. I'm just going to pull up our support website once again, because from our essential balancing webinar, we do have some troubleshooting tips, the end of day reporting and how to do balance checks. So here in the end of day reporting section, we have a note about how to do essential balancing and using that report to do balance checks to ensure that all of your accounts are balanced. And that ensures that all of your reporting is going to be accurate. The next reports that we're looking at generating during the night audit shift. So that is the essential balancing report that you would use to complete those balance checks. The next thing that we'd look at is generating some audit reports. So many of these reports can be printed and then passed on, usually to either the accounting team or the management team. These are just examples of ones that we recommend. That you might end up generating some of these and not others, or you might want to consider start generating these for your teams. That makes it easier if the night audit generates these reports rather than the accounting team or someone else trying to find them later on. So for example, some of the audit reports that you might generate is this daily balances for in-house guests and daily balances for city accounts. Here we go right here. Both of these reports are often passed on to the accounting team. They also correspond with some of the financial reports that we recommend generating, like the journal entry report, which is available here, which will show you have two options. You can either use the journal entry expanded, which is on screen here, or we have a summary version, which instead of showing all of these descriptors, would just show the account number and then the total debit, credit, net, and month to date values for that date. Another financial report that you might want to pass on to the accounting team is the transaction register balance summary. This will summarize all of the charges, any deposit transfers for advanced deposits, as well as a summary of any of the taxes collected throughout the day. And just a reminder, all of these reports are being generated for the previous date so that they can be passed on as statistical information to the different departments there. The next thing that you'd want to do with your reporting for the previous date is to generate your cashiering report and your shift reconciliation. So this is going to allow the night auditor to reconcile their shift between the start of their shift and the rollover time. Just a reminder that night auditor is actually spanning 2 separate days. So the night auditor will be doing 2 separate reconciliations or shift close. This is the closing of the first half of their shift between the start of their shift and the rollover time. Um, Alongside that shift close, the night auditor would go ahead and generate the clerk summary report. This is going to summarize all the payments and charges recorded for all clerks. This may also look similar to the transaction register balance summary. So we do have some properties that will print this one and not the transaction register balance summary, or they may just use the transaction register balance summary and not this clerk summary. So both options are available. I like to highlight or like to note both of them here if you'd like to print off both of them. The next thing that the night audit might do is to generate some statistical reports. These include property status and daily operating report. So if I just go back to Roomkey here, these reports can be found in the statistics section. So in the audits or in the reports menu, you'd go to statistics, select property status, and then the daily operating report, you'd select print. The property status report is the same as the property dashboard. It's just a printed version of that report. And then the daily operating report, when I print this one, so it's going to print for the previous day. This will show a summary of all of the charges. This is often passed on to the management team because if you've been using Roomkey for 1 year or more, it'll give a comparison to the same day last year. This daily operating report also includes month-to-date and year-to-date statistics that can be important for management purposes. So this one is often passed on to the management team as well. Lastly, you would want to use the Verify Calendar tool if your property is distributing any or accepts bookings from third-party websites through the GDS or Expedia, Booking.com Direct Connects. The Verify Calendar tool ensures that all of those reservations are being pulled through from the interface and accurately updating the inventory calendar in Roomkey. So in order to run that tool, you'll go to Operations, and you'll select Verify Calendar. You can tell the system to run the calendar for a set number of days. Typically, we recommend 1 month at a time. So we're going to go and run this report for the next through until October 17th. Click OK. And the nice thing about this tool is that it's automatically going to update. So here it tells me that the calendar was verified and no changes were needed. If there was an issue, it would tell me that an issue was found and that it was updated automatically. So in both scenarios, you're going to simply click OK, and it will automatically update that inventory calendar for you. Thanks. The last little bit here for our night audit checklist is very similar to the shift end for all of our other shifts. You're going to review your clerk detail and your shift reconciliation reports. Like I mentioned, the night auditor actually does 2 of these. They do one for the first half of their shift and then for the second half of their shift. So when they're ending their shift in the next morning, they'll do a clerk detail and a shift reconciliation. Then they'll complete the pass on with the next shift, noting any information like if there was any no-shows and if there was any of those late checkouts. If you'll recall, at the beginning of my shift, I did have to change the departure to ensure that that did not become an overstayed reservation. That should be part of your pass on to the next shift. And then any further details you want to make sure that you're completing with the next AM shift and then logging out of Roomkey. Now, the last thing that I would like to note, just operationally, there are many tasks that are not involving Roomkey that are often included in these types of checklists. So some things that I might recommend that you monitor or add to your checklist include managing wake-up calls. This is typically assigned to the night audit and AM shift. They are the ones that are typically performing the wake-up calls. So if you have a wake-up call sheet, that would be something that you are managing outside of Roomkey. Some other items like restocking, that means like restocking pens, printer paper, coffee tea station, anything else around the front desk. Those are some good tasks for the PM shift and night audit shift to be included on their daily task, is to restock those items for the front desk to better prepare the next morning. The Throughout the daytime, you may also choose to pre-make some key cards for any group or tour arrivals. And all shifts are often responsible for managing emails. So if you have an email account that is managed by reservations or front desk team members, you'll want to include that as part of a checklist item on all of these duty sheets. And last but not least, we also have a bucket check. Now, a bucket check is used if you are using paper copies of your registration cards for in-house guests. A bucket check can be performed for each shift, the AM, PM, and night audit shift, and that just ensures that you are managing and keeping good records of any guests that are in-house and have those registration cards on hand at the front desk, usually in a file folder or what we call a bucket. So the bucket check might be or might be a task that is added that is outside of any room key functions, but still might want to be included for each one of those shifts. Now, I know that we've gone a little bit over time, but I just wanted to wrap up our presentation today. We took a look at a deep dive, actually, into all of those checklists for each shift, AM, PM, and night audit shift. I'm just going to open up the floor to see if there's any additional questions here. Oh, great. So there was a question from Mike earlier. I just wanted to hold on to that one because it's actually a great question. So earlier in today's presentation, Mike did ask, is there a report that can print out that shows the license plate numbers of guests? For your security people. Now, Roomkey does not have a a specific report for license plates, but you can use our uh, report wizard to create a report like a license plate report. Now, I think we do have something similar. I'm just going to pull up our support website here. So our support center website, we do have information about um, creating and managing custom reports. If you go to our training videos and webinar recordings, down here in our advanced modules, we do have information about reports. The report wizard allows you to create custom reports. So this webinar is going to show you how to create a custom report, and we've got a couple of examples that you can use as well. So I would recommend using a custom report to print off the license plate numbers for any in-house guests, because the license plate can be recorded inside Roomkey as an independent field, and you can then create a customized report for that as well. Thanks. So I'm just going to check here, see if there are any outstanding questions. If you do have any additional questions, please let me know. I know that we did go over time here, so I'm just wanted to make sure everyone has an opportunity. Sorry, I did have a chat here asking where are these checklists? Oh, perfect. So all of the checklists that we looked at in today's presentation, they will be available on our support website. Once our recording, a copy of this recorded meeting is made available on our support website. It will include those template documents. So if you'd like to use those as reference as you update or maybe create a new checklist for your shifts, you can reference those documents on our support website as well. So they'll be part of the recording. And because you're attending today's presentation, you'll receive a notification once the recording and those checklists are updated. Great. So it looks like there are no more outstanding questions. Thank you everyone for participating today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to any suggestions if you're able to complete the webinar survey at the end. We do appreciate that feedback as well. So thank you very much and have a great day.